aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari.
As we battle COVID-19 and adjust to life's new normal, the University of Nairobi encourages you to pursue your career development goals. Applications are ongoing for the June and September 2020 programs for diploma, bachelor's, master's and PhDs in all our campuses with online classes available. Prevent the spread of COVID-19 by following the government health guidelines. The University of Nairobi is a world-class university committed to scholarly excellence.
Niko sawa. Ni venye nimetoka clinic na baba Brenda.
Mume wako anakubali mwende hospitali pamoja? Wangu hata nimlipe, hauwezi kubali.
Ilibidi twende na yeye, nipimwe. Yeye apimwe. Kama kuna HIV, nipewe dawa ndio mtoto asipate HIV.
Wanaume wenzangu, kuandamana na mama akienda clinic na pia kujua hali yako ya HIV ni muhimu. Inaonyesha unamjali na pia unajali mtoto wako mtarajiwa. Je, unajijua?
Unapoendelea kujikinga kutokana na HIV, tafadhali zingatia taratibu zote za serikali za kujikinga na virusi vya korona.
Afya bora, maisha bora. Jipime, jiinue.
Pembe Flour, your most trusted quality brand for over 3 decades, has a new look now. This new pack is available in all leading supermarkets and outlets. It's still the same flour. Great taste, so you can cook and bake all you love with Pembe Flour. Pembe yangu ni poa.
This is NTV.
A very good evening and welcome to NTV tonight. And of course, it is the 8th day of June 2020. And on this day, we have the latest of the corona numbers now. And tonight, the world coronavirus cases has surpassed the 7 million mark as lockdown is eased in several jurisdictions. And the number of those recovered globally races towards the 3.5 million mark. Let's take you through the latest numbers of the coronavirus infection worldwide. Now, tonight, it stands at 7,146,576. The global death toll are at 407,412, while those who have recovered increases to 3,486,481. In Africa, let's be specific now, the total infections tonight stand at 193,610. The number of deaths in Africa are at 5,2 243, and those recovered go up to end the day at 85,728. Let's take you now to the US, where the numbers tonight are this. The infections are 2,013,887. The death toll is at 112,645. And of course, those who have recovered are more than 700,000 in the US tonight. And on this night, New Zealand lifts all the COVID-19 restrictions after declaring the nation virus-free. And closer home, President Magufuli of Tanzania told worshippers in Dodoma that the coronavirus has been eliminated in his nation. Let's take a look at the highlights.
Tonight,
the president's disregard of court orders does not bode well for our constitutional democracy and is potentially a recipe for anarchy.
the tussle between the judiciary and the executive is escalating, and the Chief Justice is taking no prisoners.
The government cannot demand of its citizens the obedience of the law. It is itself disobeying with abandon.
Also tonight, Lancet Kenya says they are positive for COVID-19, but Nairobi Hospital refutes those findings. The government points to human error.
We shall be able to help some of these labs that might from time to time return conflicting tests to come up to standard so that those tests then become very reliable.
Plus, the virus caseload is rising fast, but the country's healthcare system doesn't seem ready.
The concern now is whether the increasing number of infections will challenge and even overwhelm our healthcare facilities.
95 new cases confirmed, but there is hope.
As the infections rise, we are at the same time recording a high number of recoveries.
And it may soon be illegal for state departments to enter into a contract if they can't pay up.
Any member of parliament can't pick it up and propose legislation that would criminalize the non-payment of pending bills.
Budget committees doors for treating the chronic ailment that is pending bills.
Live from the Nation Centre, this is NTV Tonight with Ken Mijungu.
Good evening. Glad you found some time for us. This Monday, the 8th day of June 2020. Our sign language interpreter tonight is David Agondoa. James Mamboleo, an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, joins us also tonight to weigh in on the tussle between the judiciary and the executive. He joins us in a little bit, but first, let's go to our top story tonight. And the differences between the judiciary and the executive are escalating. Chief Justice David Maraga has unleashed a stinging attack of the president, that's President Uhuru Kenyatta, accusing the head of state of disregarding the rule of law and exhibiting dictatorial tendencies. Maraga says Uhuru's action, which impede the performance of the judiciary or the judicial arm of the government, risks plunging the country into anarchy. NTV's Seth Olale starts us off with yet another open show of anger by the Chief Justice.
Barely a week after protesting an executive order by the president on grounds that it undermines the independence of the judiciary, Chief Justice David Maraga has launched another scathing attack directed at President Uhuru Kenyatta.
The president's disregard of court orders does not bode well for our constitutional democracy and is potentially a recipe for anarchy.
The bone of contention is President Kenyatta's refusal to appoint 41 judges approved by the Judicial Service Commission in July 2019 to various courts. The court directed the president to proceed with appointing the judges, but Uhuru maintains that some have integrity questions.
The president is obliged by the two court-valid orders to appoint the 41 judges within 14 days of the decisions of those two courts.
Maraga is also citing instances such as the Karubangi evictions and demolitions, where he says the executive outrightly disregarded court orders against the evictions. Maraga is now accusing the executive of double standards.
Attempts to compel the accounting officers in the relevant ministries are always rebuffed with the contemptuous utadu attitude. How can we expect God to bless our nation when we are so callous to the most desperate in our society?
The Chief Justice argues that the lack of capacity coupled with the current crisis might contribute to backlog of cases, as at 31st March 2020, there were 33 Environment and Land Court judges against a caseload of 16,457. 15 judges are serving against a caseload of 7,315 cases at the Court of Appeal, while in the Employment and Labour Relations Court, there are only 12 judges against a caseload of 13,197.
For a long time now, unsuccessfully sought an appointment to discuss this issue with you, leaving me with no option but to raise the matter through this public statement.
The two leaders of the arms of government have not been seeing eye to eye since the nullification of the 2017 presidential polls, from which President Uhuru Kenyatta promised to fix it. Madaga responded by accusing the head of state of impunity. Seth Olale, NTV, Nairobi.
Of course, that's part of our discussion tonight. The Law Society of Kenya has resolved to petition the National Assembly and the Senate to initiate a motion to impeach President Uhuru Kenyatta for what they term as the abrogation of the Constitution and the blatant disregard for the rule of law. LSK President Nelson Havi, while supporting the assertion of the Chief Justice, says the State Law Office is likely misadvising the President on critical matters.
It is almost 6 months now since the High Court directed the President of the Republic of Kenya to swear in 41 judges recommended for appointment by the Judicial Service Commission. The Council of the Law Society of Kenya resolved unanimously, the ones you're seeing here, save for 2 who are either in Nyanza, Nakuru or Malindi, that we petition the National Assembly and the Senate to initiate proceedings for the impeachment of the President of the Republic of Kenya. Because we cannot have somebody who has taken the oath to govern in tandem with the Constitution who fails to perform his duties under the Constitution. We'll therefore proceed in the manner in which we've indicated. We'll commence with the removal of the Solicitor General and the Attorney General from the list of advocates, and thereafter we'll petition the National Assembly and the Senate to impeach the President of the Republic of Kenya.
All right, let's see how that unfolds in the National Assembly and the Senate, if at all the Law Society of Kenya will make good that call. And now James Mboleo joins me right here in the studio to talk about the intrigues, the judiciary versus the executive. And James, thanks for joining us this evening. The first question is, as a lawyer sitting at the bar, looking at the complaints of Chief Justice David Maraga, this is not the first time he's launching a scathing attack on the executive. This is the second time, essentially, in about a year.
Yes.
What goes through your mind? Is he justified to make these claims?
As a lawyer who is not just a practitioner in the courts, but a person who has followed the question regarding a dispute between the President and the Judicial Service Commission on appointment of judges, I would say as follows. First, that it's extremely unfortunate that the Chief Justice is not being entirely honest about the problem bedeviling the judiciary at the present moment. The representations he has made on several occasions with regard to backlog of cases and the inadequacy of judges in the judiciary is, to say the honest truth, misleading. Why? Because, let me tell you something. The Chief Justice ought to tell the public that, first and foremost, in 2016, by a Gazette notice done by himself, he designated all all land and environment cases of a subject matter of below 20 million, which accounts for almost 90% of all the cases in the ELC courts, to be had in magistrates' courts.
Okay.
Much later, he designated all matters in the Employment and Labor Relations Court of a subject matter of below a salary of 80,000 shillings, which accounts for almost, again, 90%
of the
cases in that court,
yeah,
to the magistrates' courts.
Okay.
Let me tell you the problem with the Judicial Service
Before
Commission.
you tell me
Yes.
the problem with the Judicial Service Commission and that, then why is the Chief Justice concerned, if at all this is handled already? Because what you're telling us, 90% is already handled. So why is he concerned about the 41 judges?
The Chief Justice has about 5 months in office. Okay, when you have gone through almost all the tenure that you have as Chief Justice and President of the Judiciary, and you look at your curriculum vitae or resume, and you find that it's extremely thin, then you start looking for people to blame when you're going to be asked what you did in the judiciary. Let me tell you something. Most of the judges, every time they go for interviews, including the Chief Justice, they never tell us that they are going to reduce the backlog in the judiciary by appointing more judges. They always tell us how they are going to innovatively create efficiencies within the judiciary to address the question of backlog until they get there. And you know what happens? Because when they get into the judiciary, then they realize quickly that that is a place where people go to be lazy.
The Chief Justice in Kenya currently holds the CV in Africa as one of the only Chief Justices to nullify an election. Why would he be worried about his CV at the end of the day?
That is probably one of the 2 or 3 lines that is going to be in that resume. Because
look
at this backlog. The Chief Justice ought to tell us, when did this backlog grow to where it is? It is not that this backlog has grown in the last 2 years or 3 years. No, it has grown over the years.
So it's not his problem, that's what you're telling us.
It's not just his problem.
Yes.
The truth of the matter is, even the Chief Justice doesn't even understand the correct complement of judges that he requires for each of the courts he's talking about.
But if you want him to work as the president,
yes,
and an extension of the government, as the second arm of the government, why don't you just allow the Chief Justice to get the judges? What is the problem? I mean, they went through the Judicial Service Commission, right?
Let me tell you something.
This
is one of those matters that was in court. And you know, Ken, one of the biggest...
And the court ordered that President Uhuru Kenyatta appoints them immediately.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you why. You know, one of the biggest things you must understand about the workings of the judiciary in this country is that it is also the arbiter, even in questions in which the judiciary itself is a litigant. All right? So this is a matter of a monkey deciding a matter of the forest.
Tell me something. The procedure for appointment of judges.
Yes.
They go through the Judicial Service Commission.
Exactly. The Constitution at Article 172 gives a clear role, which is also supplemented by the Judicial Service Act, on how judges should be appointed.
Exactly.
But go and read Article 166 of the Constitution. It says in sub-Article 1 that the President shall appoint judges recommended in accordance with the Constitution by the Judicial Service Commission.
Exactly. So the Constitution gives him only the appointing role, not the vetting role.
That's the problem, Ken.
Isn't the problem
most of the people read that article up to that point. You are not listening. Now, sub-article 2 of the Constitution of Article 166 says who is to be appointed under that, and it gives recommendations of many people.
Exactly.
And some of us are of the school of thought,
yes,
that looking at that criteria and the fact that that criteria was not placed under Article 172, it has been placed under Article 166, which the president is supposed to use to appoint, then the president is not just a rubber stamp in the appointment of judges.
That is you're being an activist here.
No.
You're being an activist. If the president had concerns, the names are shortlisted, they are published, and then there are interviews that are conducted. Why didn't the concerns from Kinyua and the rest, why weren't they taken to the Judicial Service Commission? Why wait for the tail end to bring all these hurdles to the judiciary? And then complains the judiciary has done nothing.
This is how this system works. Almost more than 1,000 people apply for the position of judge. The president is not going to ask the NIS to give him a dossier on each of these people. The president has to wait until this number has reduced to...
That's not the procedure.
To a number...
This is the tail end, James, as we end the interview. This is the tail end.
Yes.
If there were concerns of integrity, if there were concerns about how these judges have been working. And remember, out of the 41, only about 2 are not practicing judges right now.
Yes.
Why weren't they presented before the Judicial Service Commission? Why now?
Now, the reason you're asking that question, Ken, is because you don't read the news. One of the issues we raised in the case about appointment of judges is that the Judicial Service Commission failed to do the background checks in accordance with the Judicial Service Act. What it did is it refused to establish the necessary mechanism of communication with the relevant NSIS authorities to have this checked out.
Okay.
And you see the result definitely is going to be that they did not do the job they wanted to do.
So what happens? I need to let you go. So what now happens?
What happens, I think, is that the president should continue ignoring those names that were unconstitutionally presented to him and wait for a Chief Justice probably who is willing to do the job properly and appoint judges after a correct procedure is followed.
All right.
Simple.
James Mamboleo is a practicing lawyer. Let's see how he deals with this in court with lack of judges, if at all we will not get the judges. All right. Thanks, James Mamboleo, for coming and sharing your perspective with us. It's a totally different perspective from what we had from the LSK and the Chief Justice. Looking forward to engaging you further on this a little bit later on because we lack time. All right, let's now talk about the COVID-19 situation. And the mass testing for COVID-19 is revealing the picture of the contagion in the country. However, questions are surrounding the tests that seem to vary from one testing center to another. Concerns have been raised on the accuracy of the test kits as the country grapples with the growing number of positive cases, as Charity Mwangi now reports.
First comes the test, then the fear and anxiety of results. You are either positive or negative. Then comes the overwhelming feeling on what are your options. Either you will be quarantined or resting comfortably on the confirmation of negative results. 2 domestic helpers in Nairobi had gone through the procedure, if only to keep the families they work for comfortable. The results that they got from Lancet Laboratories were shocking. The 2, who will remain anonymous, tested positive for COVID-19. They sought a second opinion. One went to the Nairobi hospital, while the other one opted for state-run KEMRI for another round of tests. In the time between receiving the first test results and the second results, obvious precaution had to be taken. The 2 were isolated with the families they work for, ordering for more tests to confirm their status. All the tests came back with a resounding negative result. It may be unclear which of the results were correct. But what is clear is the fact that some of the positive cases being reported by the Ministry of Health may in fact be subject to human error, as Health CAS Rashid Aman admits.
The testing protocols of laboratories. Even with a standardized testing protocol, because it is humans who are involved in the process, there is can always be some level of error where tests may vary in terms of their results.
According to the founding partner at Lancet Laboratories, Dr. Ahmed Kalebi, the kits used at Lancet are superior and more sensitive than those being used by other laboratories. He claims that it is unlikely that the error was on their side. He says, and I quote, "Our tests are very specific. They test 3 genes while Nairobi Hospital tests for 2 genes, the S gene and the E gene." Dr. Kalebi explains that one can get varying results depending on the kits used and how the sample is collected. The government says they are now addressing the errors.
So we have a protocol that we have developed for quality assurance, and I think in time as we put that in place, we shall be able to help some of these labs that might from time to time return conflicting tests to come up to standard so that those tests then become very reliable.
The admission by government leads many to question if all the patients in quarantine facilities are infected, and if those figures announced by the Ministry of Health are correct. Just how many false negatives or positives are out there? The conflicting readings in the case of the 2 domestic workers is a testament that you can wrongly be declared to be virus-free after being tested, but unwittingly pass it on, and the opposite is the truth. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
Well, does it surprise you that they could get 2 varying results? It's a story to follow up because it's a point of concern. The total number of infections in the country for COVID-19 now stands at 2,862. This is after the country today confirmed 95 new cases, with reports of more health workers getting infected. Out of the 95 positive cases, Nairobi County recorded 13 cases, Mombasa had 56, Busia 10, Kajiado had 6 cases. Nyeri County had 3 cases, which, by the way, were all health workers. Kilifi also had 3, Kitui 1, Garissa 1, Kwale 1, and Marsabit is the latest county to record its first case of COVID-19. Unfortunately, one person succumbed to COVID-19, bringing the total to 85. But as the country records increased infections, attention is now shifting to counties which have been found to be ill prepared and equipped to combat the disease. Helen Aura has more.
The new infection reported in Marsabit County brings the number of devolved units affected to 38, as Kenya records 95 positive COVID-19 cases out of 1,096 samples tested within the last 24 hours. Stakeholders are now raising concern over the state of preparedness in the counties.
Our counties are not yet prepared to handle a surge in cases. We anticipate that in the next few days we shall actually hit the 200 mark, going by how the figures have been going. So that means that for this month, we are likely to see an exponential increase in cases.
The president directed counties to set up isolation facilities with a 300-bed capacity, but KMPDU says this will have to come with additional healthcare workers.
The healthcare system has been stretched, both in terms of infrastructural capacity, but also in capacity of human resource, which is why, as the government made a commitment to be able to put forth resources to employ more healthcare workers.
Even with capacity building in place, healthcare workers are still at risk of contracting the virus.
This is a risk. It's an occupational risk. And therefore, from time to time, we are likely to see that these individuals may get infected, not because that they are not well protected, because I think in terms of, and this is answering the question what the government is doing, is to ensure that we are providing the necessary protective gear to these frontline workers.
Healthcare workers are yet to benefit from the COVID-19 welfare package, with only one county making efforts to cushion their healthcare workers. The ministry says that the matter is on the table. People over the age of 60 and those with underlying health conditions and low immunity have been urged to wear the N95 masks in public spaces. Helen Aura, NTV.
Let's now turn our attention to our coverage of the budget week. Now, this Thursday, that's in 3 days, National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani will be tabling the national budget for the next financial year, largely focusing on the economic recovery after the ravages of the current pandemic. Julian Samboko now looks at some of the key figures in that budget.
In his maiden budget and appropriations bill before the National Assembly, Ukur Yatani will be treading a tightrope as he seeks to finance expenditure designed to stimulate an economy weighed down by the COVID-19 pandemic, even as revenues are projected to fall below target. Data from the Budget and Appropriations Committee and the Division of Revenue Act of 2020 shows that the budget for the next financial year will stand at 3.22 trillion shillings, of which 1.83 trillion shillings has been designated for the executive arm of the government. Expenditure attributable to the Consolidated Fund services, which include debt servicing and pension payments, will take up another 1.03 trillion shillings. Equitable share allocation to the counties is pegged at 316.5 billion shillings. The National Assembly and the Judiciary are both set to receive 38 billion and 18 billion shillings, respectively. Some of the institutions expected to receive high allocations in the budget include the Teachers Service Commission at 266 billion shillings, the National Treasury at 117 billion shillings, the Defence Ministry at 115 billion shillings, and the Ministry of Health at 111 billion shillings. The Treasury is, however, staring at a dip in revenues, with the Budget and Appropriations Committee expressing concern that the Kenya Revenue Authority might only manage to raise 1.5 trillion shillings in ordinary revenue, a 20% decline from the amount projected for the current financial year.
The President, a few weeks ago, announced incentives to stabilize the economy, which has led to reduction of realizable revenue to the National Treasury, the tune of about 172 billion over a 1 year period.
Faced with this gaping revenue shortfall, the National Treasury projects borrowing for the financial year between July 2020 and June 2021 to stand at 823 billion shillings, of which 473 billion will be sourced from the domestic market, with the remainder sourced from the external market. Julians Amboko, NTV.
And still on budget matters, as we prepare for the reading of the budget or the tabling of the budget statement on Thursday, one issue remains a matter of great concern for the state and, of course, the contractors, and that is the problem of pending bills. The Budget and Appropriation Committee is proposing criminalization of non-payment of such bills by the state agencies that enter into contracts without ability to pay up. But as Olive Barrows now reports, the Council of Governors views such action as unenforceable, and of course they say it's illogical.
As you are aware, the government is the largest consumer of goods and services in our economy. Many small businesses are built to service this demand.
It was on Madaraka Day last year when President Uhuru Kenyatta sought to free those who do legitimate business with the national and county governments from the shackles of long overdue debt owed to them.
Unfortunately, pending payments have negatively affected many businesses, particularly those whose bulk of capital is now locked in non-payment.
Fast forward to another year and various state departments have not settled their bills. The Budget and Appropriations Committee of the National Assembly says pending bills remain a persistent concern in spite of the government's tough talk. Now the BAC is prescribing a dose to cure the inherent problem, making failure to pay up a criminal offence.
Any member of parliament can pick it up and propose legislation that would criminalize the non-payment of pending bills.
But the Council of Governors is pouring cold water on such thoughts.
Now, first of all, let me ask you, being a criminal offense, who will be taken to court?
COG making the case that not all pending bills are the product of malicious intent, but systemic.
Sometimes the road is not built well to the performance, the required standards. Then you find citizens saying this is not the road we want, and the county having a difficult issue of paying the contractor that was doing the job that was a task.
External observers therefore making the case for public access to information on how tenders are awarded, to whom, and their progress reports.
We are saying if we adopt open contracting principles, then throughout the chain of contracting, we are able to track. We're able to track the status of the projects, and we're able to say, look here, there's a red flag here. Either the goods that have been bought or procured are not value for money. And so let's not reach to a point where someone then delivers, and then now we start having issues of we can't pay him because the goods are substandard.
But it's the case of bad manners, in Mijungu's words, for which the penalty of a criminal offence is prescribed.
But there is also generally bad manners and bad financial management in government across the board, both in the national government and in our county governments, and mostly in our county governments. If you go through the pending bills of the almost all the 47 counties, you will find cases where the new governors who came in 2017 are very reluctant to pay pending bills that were incurred by their predecessors.
I think the remedy that we have now is sufficient in that before funds are released from the Treasury is able to check your payment of pending bills. Control of budget also does the same. And if they find you are not prioritizing payment of bills, then you are forced to pay pending bills before they can allow you to allocate money elsewhere.
And as the economy reels from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, analysts advise that contractors could use all the help they can get.
In the past week, we've seen the CBK sound an alarm that a majority of these SMEs won't be able to go past July if they are not, if the financing facilities are not increased. And so the reason why the government is pushing for payment of these bills is simply just to avail working capital to these SMEs.
Olive Barrows, NTV.
Right, a proposal actually should be effected. I don't know how it could be adopted, because that's one of the stories that the contractors around the country may be celebrating tonight, just for them to get that money from their work. Time now for a short break on NTV. But first, this doctor in the war-torn Yemen has hit the road to dispense medical advice from his own car, gathering large social media followers along the way. He's called Sami Yaya Al-Haj and says he thought about the poor and those in need on the streets who cannot get medical advice or don't have the money for it, or are even afraid to enter the hospitals, and decided to help.
Disinfect and protect your home with Jik. Jik kills 99.9% of illness-causing germs. Disinfect floors, kitchen and bathroom surfaces, and wash white clothes, towels, and dishcloths with Jik bleach. Just Jik it.
My whole life is in my phone. Niko na simu ya bawa. Niko na simu ya bawa. Niko na simu ya bawa. Mimi niko sawa. Niko na simu ya bawa. Kanipicha simu ya bawa. Shine up your A moment, yeah.
Beat sensitivity pain fast with Sensodyne Rapid Action for clinically proven relief in 60 seconds.
Kenya is on the rise. It is powered by you. You are innovative. You are passionate about the future. At Stima Sacco, we are a reflection of you. We are a stable, financially sound institution providing tailor-made services to add value to your life, time, and money. We are guided by your aspiration. We are Stima Sacco, a true reflection of you.
Training as a certified construction worker can be challenging, especially when you have to balance between getting education and working on your day job. At YMCA National Training Institute, we understand you and the challenge you face. That's why we provide a flexible arrangement for your training in masonry, electrical installation, painting and plumbing. In addition to the traditional classroom training, you can now be trained on-site as you do your daily work.
I just want to know where my family is. I want to let them know that their plan to kill me failed, that I'm still alive, especially that Samantha. I assure you, I am not the enemy. My loyalty is with you, Dad.
So, what do you want to happen now?
I just want to make sure that you managed to do what you needed to do. I don't care if I die, I'm going to look for my family. I want you to find her grandmother, as well as her brother. She has nobody left to turn to, but her family. Is that your grandma and your brother? Good. You better pray she's dead already. Anna?
What comes to your mind when you think of the perfect home for your family? Victory Gardens offers exactly that and much more. Call us today on 0790 300 300 or visit www.optivan.co.ke.
Well, the news continues right here on NTV tonight. Young artists right here in Nairobi are using their talent to educate residents about how to prevent COVID-19 through art. In collaboration with UN Habitat, the Matatu Welfare Association artists are now turning their attention away from the art and towards well-being of their community. The artists are using graffiti on public transport vehicles to create awareness on COVID-19 safety and hygiene messages. Rose Wangoi has the details.
Since Kenya announced its first coronavirus case on March 13th, paintbrushes have been transformed into educational tools in a bid to prevent the spread of the virus. In Nairobi, matatus have added a colorful flair to the city's streets. A group of artists are using graffiti to spread COVID-19 messages on public service vehicles in order to illustrate proper hygiene practices and to encourage people to stay at home and respect the curfew. UN Habitat, in partnership with the Matatu Welfare Association, flew an initiative, Light Art Club, with the support of the NTSA and the Kenya Urban Roads Authority, KURA, today launched an initiative which will see public transport vehicles spreading COVID-19 messages through art.
COVID is here to stay with us. COVID is going nowhere. Bringing more education, sensitization, and training, both in a formal and in an informal manner.
Art has the power to make a positive impact in times of crisis. Through this initiative, they hope to create a platform for upcoming creative artists to use their talents in the fight against the global pandemic.
Economy inafunguka na watu wanaenda job each and every day. Tukiweza kuangalia matatu ndio enye watu wanatumia sana. Tukakuja na idea ya kuweza kuweka graffiti kwa matatu. Imechukuliwa na watu wengi as a very, very nice thing. Watu wanaiona, watu wanakumbuka about the measures. Like you need to wash your hands, you need to sanitize.
And with that effort, we hope that the whole country will be covered with safety messages and how to prevent the spread of COVID for passengers who are using these vehicles.
While many prevention methods such as regular hand washing and physical distancing are challenging, it is hoped that the initiative will raise awareness and encourage people to do what they can to protect themselves and their families. Rozongoi, NTV.
Well, the ongoing rights protests in the United States of America following the death of George Floyd in police custody have sparked a wave of similar protests across the world, calling for social reforms. Here in Kenya, protesters took to the street to demonstrate against police brutality and the killings. At least 15 such deaths have been reported in the country since the curfew was imposed. Anita Nkonge has the details.
Touting signs calling for a stop to police brutality, Kenyans took to the streets of Mathare slums to demonstrate the unjust killing of Kenyans and use of excessive force by law enforcement.
Niko hapa leo kutetea vijana wetu wale ambaye wamekufa kupitia mikono ya polisi bila hatia yoyote. Na tumesema sasa enough is enough. Kama wamama wa Mathare tumeuiwa vijana sana. Vijana wetu wanauliwa kiholela, wakipatiwa majina za uongo, wakipachikwa jina hawa ni waizi. Hali vijana wetu si waizi.
Important to stand in solidarity with victims of police brutality, both locally and globally. It's atrocious. We can't have a peaceful, prosperous existence with the police state, period.
Kenyan police have allegedly been involved in the deaths of 15 people since the country put a nighttime curfew in place in March to combat the coronavirus, according to the Independent Policing Oversight Authority. The IPOA says it has received 87 complaints against police since the dusk to dawn curfew and heightened security measures were imposed on March 27th.
I have chosen Kenya as my home for the past almost decade, and I'm going to keep choosing it every day. And what that means is that you have to be willing to fight to make your country better. And this is how people do it, you know? This is how you get the people who feel unheard to feel heard.
This spark in protest comes in the wave of worldwide protests against the brutal killing of George Floyd in the U.S. city of Minneapolis. George died days after the officer knelt on his neck for 8 minutes while he pleaded for his life and called for his mother. Following nationwide protests, the Council of U.S. City Minneapolis has voted to dismantle and rebuild the city's police department. A council member says the veto-proof majority of the MPLS City Council agreed that the police department is not reformable and that they're going to end the current policing system.
These are not the right response for a myriad of issues. Mental health crises, domestic violence calls, opioid overdoses.
Hundreds of demonstrators have been marching towards the White House and gathering on the newly renamed Black Lives Matter Plaza to protest against police brutality and racism in the U.S. Anita Nkonge, NTV.
Away from that to some hard politics now, and there appears to be a tactical retreat in the push to remove Garissa Member of Parliament Aden Duale as the National Assembly Majority Leader. The party's majority whip in the National Assembly, that's Emmanuel Wangwe, says they are reaching for guidance from the Jubilee Party leadership, that's President Uhuru Kenyatta. Wangwe has, however, asserted that the fiery legislator is not out of trouble just yet.
A meeting that had been called at the Jubilee headquarters to discuss the conduct and possible removal of National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale was first postponed before eventually being cancelled off. It is such actions pointing to confusion within the ruling party that seem to be handing Duale a second lease of life as Majority Leader.
This is a position we are holding on behalf of the leadership of the party. Therefore, I wouldn't want to say there was intervention on the matter, but the party leadership has felt in its wisdom that the matter shall be handled at a later stage, and therefore we go as per that direction.
But Majority Whip Emmanuel Wangwe and his deputy Maoka Maore say Duale is not out of the woods yet.
The party leadership is active, the party leadership is live, and we take orders and instruction from the party leadership. What we do is, if the party leadership says go to A, you do what A says.
But as they ponder upon the way forward, it is now emerging that there is no consensus on who will take Duale's position should he be removed. Sources within the Jubilee Party intimate that Kipipiri MP Amos Kimunya and Kieni's Kanini Kega, who has been spearheading the collection of signatures, are both eyeing the powerful position. Many, however, questioning if Kega has actually accumulated the requisite signatures to oust Duale.
So the list is there.
Will you mind sharing that list with us?
Fine, I will share with you. Of course not now, I didn't know you will ask.
We have received the signatures, 126 of them, which we have forwarded to the party leader.
Duale survived last week's purge in the National Assembly following extensive lobbying by various leaders, especially from the northern region. But the fiery Garissa Town Member of Parliament soldiers on in the hope of staying on. He remains in a desperate show of dual loyalty, torn between staying true to a long-time friend and obeying the authority from where his leash on House leadership is controlled.
The 7-day period given to 16 committee chairpersons and vices who face ouster from their positions end on Thursday this week, when they are required to have responded to the move by the Jubilee Party to de-whip them. Vincent Duo, NTV, Nairobi.
Now, the embattled Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula now has 7 days to try and save himself from the removal as the Ford Kenya Party leader. This follows a move by the registrar of political parties to gazette a notice of his removal, seeking written submission or objections concerning the intended change. According to the registrar of political parties, at this point, the change in the party are only intended and have not been effected. If the 7-period lapses unchallenged, then the move will hand over the leadership to the newly appointed interim party leader Wafula Wamunyinyi. But in a quick rejoinder, Wetangula has dismissed the Gazette notice, arguing that the matters of party leadership have been resolved.
Those rank and file members of Ford Kenya, including the Member of Parliament for Kandui, the Member of Parliament for Tongaren, the Governor of Bungoma, and those who think like them, are invited to come to the National Delegates Congress and present themselves for election. And let's see how the elections will be carried out. This kind of shortcuts they're trying to take is a complete antithesis of democracy.
And indeed, Wetangula was with me here in studio about a week ago, where he stated clearly that the issues of Ford Kenya Party had been resolved. Let's see how this plays out. 7 days is the time period given to Moses Wetangula to try and salvage his position at Ford Kenya. Time now for another short break. We still have business, so stay with us. We'll be back.
Can you tell Mijungu to come to my office immediately? Good morning. Good morning. Mimi sipendi unapanguza floor. Hiyo dust uache hapa kwa meza. Clean up. Mijungu, this is a problem, eh? Next time uende ununue selector yako, utengeneze sandwich zako, uachane na sandwich za boss.
Selector, the difference is in the taste.
Hii uende weke kwa ile githeri yako, eh?
Selena!
Toto, where is mommy?
Today's a toilet day.
What? Oh.
Selena!
Toilet day?
Tomorrow we're hosting a party and it's a matter of my reputation.
It's a toilet, not a white shirt. Even if you spend your entire day cleaning with bleach and detergent, it still won't be party ready.
Impossible.
Challenge. Harpic 10X. Even if you use bleach and detergent 10 times, they won't give you the same sparkling clean toilet that Harpic 10X will give you.
Wow!
Harpic 10X. Harpic, Kenya's #1 toilet cleaner.
For a better tomorrow, don't forget to do the 1, 2, 3 with Colgate every night.
Explorers of the night, wale wase wa kuhustle usiku, kustreama movies, music mix diehards, and gaming fanatics. We've heard you. It is now your time to fly your flag high. Do what you love, mpaka che na Telkom. Join Usiku Sako with Telkom night bundles that allow you rule the night at prices you love. Join our tribe, Usiku Sako Squad. Just dial *544# from your Telkom line and select the night bundle of your dreams. You are the legend the night needs.
And we are back with business. Let's make sense of this sense. Ahead of the national budget, which will be tabled this Thursday, the government has received a financial boost from the European Union to the tune of 7.8 billion shillings towards the fight against COVID-19. From the amount, 1.2 billion shillings will be channeled directly to vulnerable families and individuals in informal settlements through monthly cash transfers. Between 2.4 to 3 billion shillings will go towards small and medium enterprises to provide short-term working capital. 3.6 billion, on the other hand, has been allocated to mobilize resources towards containing the spread and adverse effects of COVID-19 pandemic in the social, economic and health sectors. 600 million shillings has been set aside to ensure the smooth flow of trade with a bias towards food security. All right, there's some information that those of you who saw the names on social media and phone numbers would really be interested in. The Digital Lenders Association of Kenya, that's DLAC, has condemned the debt-shaming practices that two digital lenders, that's Okash and Opesa, have been employing in debt collection. This follows the online backlash from members of the public regarding the abuse of the privilege that the lenders have access to the borrower's contact list. Now, the lenders have been calling the contacts of borrowers, asking them to pay back the money owed to them. In a statement, the association says the move not only violates Kenyan data protection laws, but also robs the borrower their basic dignity and consumer rights. DLAC, which is an umbrella body for digital lenders such as Tala, Stawika Capital, Zenka Finance Branch and MyCredit, urged the two lenders to promptly cease the practice and turn around their debt collection operations to meet ethical standards. And listed companies intending to hold virtual general meetings due to the effects of the coronavirus will need to factor in 14 days for approval from the Capital Markets Authority. The CMA has released guidelines on how the virtual meetings will be held with companies being required to submit to the authority details of how the meetings will be held. The companies will also be required to demonstrate how requisite information will be provided to shareholders to enable them make informed decisions before posting the 21-day statutory notice of a meeting to the shareholders. The CMA will confirm or deny approval within 14 days. The Nairobi Security Exchange has provided listed companies with the option of holding virtual AGMs and posting their financial results on social media channels to mitigate the impact of COVID-19, a move which now has legal backing. Some agriculture from finance and potato farmers in Nyandarua County are decrying what they term as poor implementation of the recently approved packaging laws, which they say are increasing their losses. In 2019, the Irish potato regulations came into force, restricting packaging of potatoes to 50-kilogram bags. The regulations also stipulated that potatoes should be sold in kilos. The farmers say brokers are still buying potatoes in bags larger than the 50 kilos, despite the rule being effected, a move which is significantly reducing their profit margin. The farmers further say the closure of hotels following measures by the government to curb the spread of coronavirus has resulted in a dip in the demand for their produce, and the excess supply has seen prices decline.
Kilo haijakamilika bado tu tunawekewa kwa magunia. Viazi ni broker, cabbage ni broker, carrot ni broker, na sasa wananunua vile wanataka kwa sababu hakuna wa kupeleka. Sasa ni lazima akikuja hiyo broker akwambia hata ni shilingi 10 utauza tu kwa sababu utapeleka wapi.
Indeed, that's a valid cry from the farmers, especially at this time. Listed insurance and financial service firm CIC Group has appointed Patrick Nyaga as its Chief Executive Officer effective June 22nd this year. The board of CIC Group settled on Nyaga, who has been working in the banking sector for the last 28 years after an 8-month recruitment exercise. Nyaga previously worked as the Group Finance and Strategy Director for Cooperative Bank Group and an audit firm, that's KPMG East Africa. In a statement, CIC's chairperson Japheth Magomere says the Insurance Regulatory Authority and the Capital Markets Authority have approved the appointment. Elijah Washira, the managing director of CIC General Insurance, has been holding fort as the acting CEO after the exit of Tom Gitogo, who was at the helm for 6 years. And that's business. We'll be back.
This new pack is available in all leading supermarkets and outlets. It's still the same flour. Pembe yangu ni poa.
Do your gums hurt? Yeah. Does your toothpaste contain sage, eucalyptus, myrrh, chamomile? All that in one toothpaste? Yes, try Colgate Herbal. Colgate Herbal contains nature's best herbs and Colgate's fluoride technology to give you strong teeth and healthy gums. Ah, Colgate Herbal. Let's go. Colgate Herbal for strong teeth and healthy gums naturally.
The Governor of Kakamega County, His Excellency Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, is pleased to notify property owners within Kakamega County of his decision to extend a 100% waiver on penalties and interest arising from any accrued and unpaid land rates within Kakamega County. The waiver has been extended from 1st June to 31st August 2020. Take advantage of this waiver period to clear all your outstanding arrears. Please take note that the county government will institute all necessary measures, including repossession of the property upon the end of the waiver period. For more details, visit our county revenue offices or website www.kakamega.go.ke. Kakamega County, the green jewel.
Well, the news continues on NTV tonight. By the year 2050, islands along the coastal strip like Manda in Lamu County will be submerged due to the greenhouse effect and global warming. This is according to the Kenya Maritime and Fisheries Research Institute, which says human activities are contributing to the degradation of mass water bodies and affecting marine life. Kevin Mutai spoke to the organization as the globe marked the World Oceans Day.
Scientists are warning that human beings could be signing their death sentence due to the skyrocketing rate of environmental degradation. This has caused global warming, which is a direct threat to biodiversity, with more effects being visible in the Arctic and affecting the Indian Ocean.
The warming up of the ice glaciers and the icebergs in the Arctic is going to cause about 1 meter increase in our ocean. We're being told that islands like Lamu, Manda Island will be submerged, and several estates and several towns, cities in the world won't be under the ocean. You'll be under the sea.
The world produces over 300 million metric tons of plastics every year, with scientists indicating that 20% of that ends in the oceans and seas.
Like this one will end up in the ocean.
According to the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute, the toxins in plastics could find way into your dinner plate.
There will be more plastics, about 50 million metric tons of plastics in water, more than fish. That is one thing. So you'll be eating more plastics in fish.
Another threat to the ecosystem is sand harvesting and dredging for the construction of a second container terminal at the port of Mombasa, which Njiru says has negatively impacted the marine ecosystem and contributes to the loss of millions of fish species.
The floor of the ocean is very critical for very many marine animals, either for breeding, for their food, and for many other aspects. So when you dredge, you disturb the ecosystem. The dredging also has what we call particles, which normally will get suspended in the water. Then definitely, as we move on, we'll be having less tourists, local, even international tourists, because who wants to go to watch a coral reef which has no fish?
The coronavirus pandemic has equally served its fair share of the hit to the sector.
Satellite images show us that almost 80% of the fishing fleets in the deep waters are no longer fishing. One, because the borders are closed. Where are you going to sell the fish? It becomes very difficult to sell the fish. So there's less fishing in the ocean.
There's a rallying call for the world to respect the role of oceans and use its marine resources sustainably. The World Oceans Day is a United Nations International Day that is marked on the 8th of June to create awareness of the oceans and seas. Kevin Mutai, NTV, Mombasa.
All right, let's now do some politics again. And some 126 Jubilee members from the Keleweke faction have signed a petition to remove the top Ruto ally, that's Aden Duale, from the position of majority leader in the National Assembly, effectively sealing the fate of the Garissa Township Member of Parliament. And of course, in your Daily Nation tomorrow, we focus on this. Read about the hastily cancelled Jubilee Party meeting and why only President Uhuru Kenyatta can throw a lifeline to the embattled politician. Plus, the coronation of Deputy President William Ruto as a Kalenjin political kingpin has caused division among the community leaders and reignited rivalry with his political nemesis, Baringo Senator Gideon Moi, ahead of the 2022 succession politics. For all these details, don't miss your copy tomorrow of the Daily Nation. And of course, it's about 2 minutes to the top of the hour. We're taking another break. When we come back, Ida Waringa is already in studio with all the sports. Stay with us.
Applications are ongoing for the June and September 2020 programs for diploma, bachelor's, master's and PhDs in all our campuses with online classes available. prevent the spread of COVID-19 by following the government health guidelines. The University of Nairobi is a world-class university committed to scholarly excellence.
Stima Sacco, we are a reflection of you. We are a stable, financially sound institution providing tailor-made services to add value to your life, time and money. We are guided by your aspiration. We are Stima Sacco, a true reflection of you.
I just want to know where my family is. I want to let them know that their plan to kill me failed, that I'm still alive, especially that Samantha.
I assure you, I am not the enemy. My loyalty is with you, Dad.
So, what do you want to happen now?
I just want to make sure that you managed to do what you needed to do.
I don't care if I die, I'm going to look for my family.
I want you to find her grandmother, as well as her brother. She has nobody left to turn to, but her family.
Isn't that your grandma and your brother?
Gail, you better pray she's dead already.
What comes to your mind when you think of the perfect home for your family? Victory Gardens offers exactly that and much more. Call us today on 0790 300 300 or visit www.optivan.co.ke.
A very good evening. Time for sport now, with President Uhuru Kenyatta extending the ban on gatherings, which also encompass sports, for a further 30 days. The Sports Ministry has said that it will use this time to examine the protocols that need to be in place for a possible return of sport amidst the coronavirus pandemic.
Lakini tumeestablish committee ambayo itafanya kazi kwa muda wa wiki 3 hivi kutuambia tunataka tuweke protocol gani kwenye stadia zetu ndio tuanze michezo tena. Kwa hivyo itachukua muda huo ambao Mheshimiwa Rais aliongea juu yake, siku kama 30 hivi, kwao kwenda kila mahali kuongea na washikadau wenzao ili kuelewa ni wakati gani tunaweza kuanzisha michezo tena. Lakini kamiti tumetekeleza tayari.
Well, sports infrastructure in the country has become a story of unfulfilled promises, but Kericho County has stepped up to be counted with completion of renovations at the Kericho Green Stadium. Now, the pride of place is a tartan track, which will come in handy for athletes in the South Rift.
The completion of renovations at the Kericho Green Stadium is enough to make other counties turn green with jealousy. After years of waiting, athletes in the South Rift region now have a reason to smile with a lane of a tartan track at the cost of 37 million Kenyan shillings. The tartan track complements the carpet-like pitch that is certain to delight Kericho-based Zoo FC players in particular and Kenyan Premier League players in general.
The field is FIFA certified. The track is IWF certified.
The total cost of the renovation is 100 million Kenyan shillings, with the project part of the fulfillment of the 13-part manifesto by Governor Paul Chepkwony.
Promised the youth that would improve sports, and sports is holistic, it's about the game as well as the facilities.
Renovations of the little-known Cap Cadet Stadium in Kericho County, which is under the management of Sports Kenya, is next in line for the governor, who is serving his second and final term.
The national government has done something in Cap Cadet, but it hasn't been finalized. This is part of the responsibility we have to complete Cap Cadet. Then followed by Sosiot. We want to make sure that each sub-county has a good stadium.
In addition to the infrastructure, Kericho County has also established a relationship with partners in America with an eye on empowering women.
We talked to our friends in America, especially Ben Gurgat, so that these women can be training here in Kericho and they go for athletics that they participate in for some money. So those programs exist in US.
Kericho now joins Machakos, Mombasa and Kakamega as some of the 47 counties that have taken the evolution of sports to heart.
That others will follow suit. While the status of the current Kenyan Premier League season remains in doubt, owing to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Tanzanian Top Flight League is set to resume on Saturday. Well, the mainland league is home to Kenyan international Francis Kahata, who made the switch from Gor Mahia to league leaders Simba in 2019. The creative midfielder raised eyebrows last week when he overcame strict restrictions to travel from Kenya to Tanzania so as to rejoin his team in training ahead of the season restart. Simba CEO Senzo Mbatha shares his thoughts on the player.
You can see that Kahata has elevated his status, so to speak. He's done very well for Simba. You know, when you play for a club that is so well supported, that has got numbers, it gives, you know, a credence to players' profiles. You know, so but as an individual, Kahata has really taken Simba to the next level. He's been a professional. He's done his job diligently, and is
Moving on, Lamine Diak, the disgraced former head of the athletics governing body, has gone on trial in Paris on charges of corruption and money laundering linked to the Russian athlete's doping scandal. Diak, who turned 87 on Sunday and who has denied wrongdoing, faces a potential 10-year prison sentence. The Senegalese, who was in charge of the International Association of Athletics Federations, IAAF, now World Athletics, between 1999 and 2015, is charged with giving and receiving bribes, breach of trust, and organized money laundering. Prosecutors allege that he solicited 3.45 million euros from athletes suspected of doping to cover up the allegations and allowed them to continue competing, including in the 2012 London Olympics. Well, the most celebrated Springbok Sevens player of his generation, Cecile Africa, has ended his Blitzbok journey after 12 seasons. The former World Rugby Sevens Player of the Year in 2011 will bow out after 345 HSBC World Rugby Sevens Series matches and a points tally of 1,464. Africa, who made his debut in Dubai in 2009, played in his final and 66th tournament for his country in Vancouver. That was in March this year. He was part of 2 World Series winning Blitzbok squads, as well as a South African team that won Commonwealth Games gold in 2014 and Olympic bronze, that was in 2016. Africa has, however, not shut down the option of representing South Africa at the rescheduled Olympics in 2021. Definitely all the best to him. Let's move on, where things haven't been looking too good on the blue side of Manchester, as a City have begun their attempt to overturn their 2-year UEFA ban from European football at a 3-day hearing at the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Switzerland, being done on video conferencing. Now, European soccer's governing body UEFA ruled in February that City had committed serious breaches of financial fair play, known as FFP regulations, and failed to cooperate with its investigation. It then handed them a 2-season ban and a €30 million fine. Missing out on a Champions League season would cost City, who have denied wrongdoing, as much as €111 million in prize money and broadcast revenue. The FFP regulations are designed to even the playing field, as well as stop clubs running up big losses through spending on players. Well, we'll definitely be keeping tabs on that in the course of the week. That does it for sport. We play again tomorrow. It's back to Ken. I'm Ida Waringa.
Thanks, Aida, very much. 8 minutes past the top of the hour. Thank you very much for watching NTV tonight. I'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday. And of course, Wednesday, we have a team coverage. So stay with us. Thanks for watching. And remember to observe the simple COVID-19 rules in order to keep all of us safe. Thanks to David Agundoa, our sign language interpreter this evening. See you tomorrow. Good night.